What if I told you that most of the good men you know would turn corrupt the second the reward structure changed? And that includes you. You follow the rules at work because you could get fired. You stay loyal in your relationship because you could get caught. You are disciplined in public because people are watching. But if all the cameras turned off, if no one could see you, if there were no screenshots and no consequences, would you really live the same way? That's the question Plato posed. Are you moral or just well supervised? Everything that follows is about that difference. If your morality is tied to incentives, money, status, fear of shame, then the moment those incentives shift, corruption follows. And if you don't want to be that man, you need to rebuild your morality from the inside out. Listen closely, because what begins as a diagnosis becomes a practical guide. How to shift from incentive-based morality to principle-based morality so you can't be easily bought, pressured, or broken. I'll start with something you hate to admit. Most of your good behavior is transactional. You act honest because it keeps your image clean. You're polite because it keeps doors open. You tell the truth because lies might blow up on you. You work hard when someone is tracking your performance. You resist certain temptations because you're afraid of getting exposed. In other words, you're not necessarily being good. You're managing risk. That is instrumental morality. You treat morality like a tool, a tactic, something you use when it benefits you and drop when it doesn't. People are only just because it is safer, because it pays, because injustice has consequences. Give them power without punishment, and they will show you who they really are. Here's the mirror into modern life. You know men who act disciplined until no one is watching. You know men who are faithful until they travel. You know men who preach integrity online and live like cowards offline. And you know, if you are honest, that you are not so different yourself. Plato presses this with a thought experiment. Imagine a ring that makes you invisible. No one can see what you do. No one can catch you. No punishment. No shame. No consequences. What happens? The argument is simple. Almost everyone becomes corrupt. They take what they want. They cheat, steal, lie, and manipulate because the only thing that was holding them back was fear, not character. You live in your own version of this test. You have anonymity online. You have private tabs on your browser. You have moments when nobody is home. You have corners of your life you believe no one will ever see. Here is the harsh truth. Who you are in those invisible moments is your real morality. Everything else might just be branding. If you are good when watched and reckless when unseen, you don't have integrity. You have performance. You have outsourced your morality to surveillance. And a man who needs surveillance to behave will sell out the second the pressure or reward turns in the other direction. This way of living always fails. First, incentives always change. You might move to a place where corruption is normal. You might get promoted to a level where no one checks your work. You might gain enough power or privacy that consequences begin to disappear. If you were only honest because you were afraid of being caught, what happens when catching you becomes unlikely? Second, culture rewards the opposite of what you claim to value. We celebrate wealth, not how it was made. We celebrate attention, not whether it was earned with truth. We celebrate winning, even if you had to cut corners to get there. If your morality is tied to reward, and the world rewards the wrong things, your morality will quietly bend to match the incentive structure. Third, your emotions are unreliable. On a good day, you might act noble. On a bad day, when you're tired, bitter, lonely, or angry, the same man can rationalize anything. If your morality is based on how you feel or what you get from a situation, then all it takes is a shift in mood. environment, or power for the whole structure to crumble. That's why men you thought were good suddenly cheat, steal, or implode. They weren't good. They were restrained. And restraint is not the same as character. You are living in a world designed to make morality instrumental. Algorithms reward outrage and vanity, not depth. Companies reward results, not integrity. Social circles reward conformity, not truth. You are constantly measured, tracked, and incentivized. Views, likes, bonuses, promotions, praise. Everything pulls you toward performing the version of good that pays the most. Even your guilt is often incentive-based. You don't feel bad because you violated a principle. You feel bad because you imagine someone finding out. And the more time you spend in this environment, the more natural it feels to ask, before every action, what do I get for this? What happens to me if I don't? How will this look? Those questions sound practical, but they are quietly hollowing you out. Plato's challenge in Book 2 is exactly this. If you strip away all external rewards and punishments, is justice still worth choosing? Is being a certain kind of man still worth it when it costs you? Most men never seriously ask that. They don't have to. Their life is one long series of carrot-and-stick systems that make them look better than they are. Corruption rarely feels like corruption in the moment. It feels like the way the game is played. It feels like everyone else does it. It feels like you deserve this. It feels like this is a one-time thing. Corruption happens at the edge, where your fear of consequences drops just below your hunger for reward. You tell yourself you're still a good person because you're only bending the rules, only in this situation, only because the system is unfair, only because no one is really getting hurt. That is how instrumental morality talks. You're not asking whether something is right. You're asking whether you can get away with it, or whether you benefit from it. Once you start thinking like that, you will adjust to match whatever benefits you most in each situation. That's how a man becomes corrupt without ever feeling like a villain. If you don't want to be that man, you cannot build your morality on incentives. You must build it on something that doesn't move when circumstances move. That something is principle. This is where most self-help content stops. Be a better person. Have integrity. Do the right thing. It sounds nice, but it doesn't tell you how. So here's the pivot. From this point on, the work is about a practical process for shifting your morality from incentive-based to principle-based, so it becomes harder to corrupt as your circumstances change. This won't feel comfortable. It will feel like war with yourself. Good. That means you're actually changing. First, you need to see where your morality is strategic. You must ask brutally honest questions. Where do you act good, mainly because you are afraid of consequences? Where would you act differently if there were no screenshots, no cameras, no history, no proof? Where do you change your behavior depending on who is watching? Where do you talk one way publicly and live another way privately? Don't journal. Write like you are giving a report on your own hypocrisy. You are not doing this to shame yourself. You are doing it to locate the weak points where incentives, not principles, are running the show. Circle those areas. Focus on them. That is where corruption will show up when incentives shift. Next, you need repetitions of doing the right thing when it is literally worthless in terms of reward. This is the only way to train principle-based morality. Start small and concrete. Clean up a mess no one saw you make. Return extra change when the cashier gives you too much. Help someone anonymously with no chance of credit. Tell the full truth in a situation where lying would help you and no one would know. Keep this secret with yourself. Don't hint about it. Don't milk it. Only you shall know. Every time you choose to do the right thing in a situation where you could have gotten away with doing wrong, you signal to yourself that you act from who you are, not from what you can get. Those repetitions build a different kind of strength, not the strength to perform, but the strength to obey your own standards, even when the world is blind. Most decisions are evaluated with questions like, did this work? Did I win? Did I get what I wanted? That is outcome thinking. Incentive logic. Principle-based morality asks a different question. Did I live up to my standard, regardless of the outcome? You need to define those standards. I do not lie to protect my image. I do not cheat in relationships, even if I know I wouldn't get caught. I do not deceive in business, even when it would pay and be untraceable. I do not consume content that turns people into objects, even though it is socially acceptable and anonymous. These are lines in the sand. This is your path. You must reach a place where your internal rule is stronger than incentive, where you would rather lose, suffer, or go without than violate the man you are trying to be. This is exactly the test Plato proposes. If no one saw, if no one rewarded you, would you still choose to do the right thing? Your standards are your answer. Don't be arrogant about your environment. You are not above it. You are shaped by it. If you surround yourself with people who bend their morals for convenience, you will bend yours. If you immerse your mind in content that glorifies winning at any cost, you will do the same when the moment comes. Ask yourself, who do I admire? Why do I admire them? Are the men I respect driven by principle or by incentives? Does my environment make integrity easier or harder? Then you start making changes. You reduce time in spaces that reward performative morality. You add friction between you and your worst temptations. You create accountability with people who care about your character, not just your image. You cannot claim to want to be principled while feeding your mind a non-stop diet of win first, justify later. Plato's world had poets and storytellers shaping values. You have algorithms and influencers doing the same. Be ruthless about which ones you let educate your soul. At the center of all this is your identity story. If you secretly see yourself as just like everyone else, the kind of man who would do what they do if you had their power, then you will act that story out. You will live down to it. You need a higher standard. You must do better than the average man. That is a low bar in a corrupt culture. Instead, start asking a different question before decisions. What kind of man am I becoming if I do this? Not what do I get, not what will they think, but who will I be on the other side of this choice? This is where principle-based morality really lives, in that moment between impulse and action, where you decide whether you will be the kind of man who can be bought by incentives or the kind of man who cannot. You will not always like the answer. Good. Sit in that discomfort. It is the pressure that forges a different character. To make this concrete, imagine you're at work. You discover a way to manipulate numbers that makes your team look better. No one would notice. It would help your bonus, your reputation, your future opportunities. Incentive-based morality kicks in. Everyone massages the numbers. If this helps the team, it is justified. If you don't do it, you will fall behind someone who will. So you do it. You get the reward. You feel clever. Now imagine the principle-based version of you. He sees the same opportunity. He knows no one would catch him. He knows there is a clear benefit, and he refuses. Not because he is afraid of being caught, but because he has decided that he does not build his life on lies, even profitable ones. He might lose money. He might look worse in the short term. He might get passed over. But he sleeps as a man who knows he didn't sell out. Multiply this difference across years, across relationships, across choices with no witnesses. You don't just end up with two different careers. You end up with two different souls. You probably think freedom means doing whatever you want. That is the slave's definition. If your actions are controlled by incentives, money, pleasure, praise, fear, you are not free. You're being steered from the outside. You are programmable. Principle-based morality is a different kind of freedom. It means you cannot be easily bribed. You cannot be easily blackmailed. You cannot be easily manipulated by threat or reward. You don't need an audience to behave. You become a man who lives the same way in the dark as in the light. The world loses leverage over you because your behavior is no longer for sale. That is rare, and that is why it is powerful. So here is where you land. If morality is just a tool for you, you will bend it whenever your incentives change. You will be faithful until something better comes along, honest until lying pays more, disciplined until comfort calls louder. That is the path of most men. It is easy, it is crowded, and it ends in quiet self-contempt. Your alternative is harder. To stare at the parts of you that only behave when watched. To train yourself to do the right thing when it is useless, costly, or unseen. To build standards that you obey even when they hurt. To choose who you become over what you get. Plato's challenge in Book 2 was never just academic. It was aimed at men like you, living in systems like ours. If no one could see you, if there were no screenshots, if there were no punishments, if there were no rewards, who would you be then? If that answer bothers you, good. That discomfort is the beginning of real morality, not the end. Start by catching yourself the next time you are about to make a choice just because it benefits you or protects you. Stop. Ask whether you would still choose this if no one ever knew, and whether this action is building the man you claim you want to be. Then act according to the second question, not the first. That is how you shift from incentive-based morality to principle-based morality, one decision at a time, not by talking about values, not by posting quotes, but by doing the right thing in the dark. Most men will never do it. They will stay supervised, incentivized, controlled. But if you are still reading, it is because some part of you is done with that. So here is your choice going forward. Let incentives rule you, or become the man who cannot be bought. You know which one you respect. Living like that man starts today, before this becomes another thing you nod along to and forget. Turn it into a drill. For the next 7 days, do 3 things. First, one invisible act of integrity. Every day, do something right that no one else will ever know about. Protect someone, clean something, tell the truth, return what isn't yours, quietly. Second, refuse one temptation on principle. When you feel pulled toward something you know is beneath you, cheap pleasure, lazy dishonesty, petty cruelty, say no explicitly because of who you want to be, not because you are scared of consequences. Third, one brutally honest reflection. At night, ask yourself where you acted from incentive today and where you acted from principle. Write it down. Don't sugarcoat it. Track the pattern. 7 days will not make you perfect, but it will do something more important. It will prove to you that principle-based living is a skill you can train, not a personality trait you either have or don't. From there, it is simple, not easy. You keep repeating the drill. You raise your standards. You tighten your lines. and you refuse to let the world buy you cheap. That is how a man becomes dangerous in the best possible way, not because he is reckless, but because his integrity cannot be turned on and off with rewards and threats. Be that man.